We're going to pass around the buckets, take up our tithes and offerings. Man, I just want to say thank you guys. I just said it, but little church 3 months into existence, giving more than $8,000 to missions in 2017. That's doing something, and that's because of you guys. It's because of what you're pouring into this place. And I'm a firm believer that God doesn't give us worldly resources to hog them. He gives it to us so that it can go through us.
Yes.
Come out the other end. And so we want to be a church that always does that and always remembers that He is our provision, that He is bigger, and that whenever we are givers faithfully, He truly opens up the windows of heaven in our lives. Let's just pray over these tithes and offerings. Heavenly Father, man, we just thank you for the gift and the giver. We thank you for what it is that you're doing, the way that you take what little bit we give you and you multiply it to have an impact and an effect so much bigger and greater than we could ever imagine. It's in your name we pray. Amen. Amen. Just two announcements. Again, here at the end of January, we're going to have a night where we get into service. And so I want you to be praying about where it is that you can plug in. There's a spot for everyone in this room. I can promise you. And I got to give a super special thanks to my guys that man the outside with me. It has been nasty the last few weeks, and they're out there with a smile on their face. They don't bellyache or complain. And the good news is we had a volunteer to be out there next week, and so I'm excited about that. We had people step up last week, and that's what I love about you guys, and I want you to know that. I'm not what makes this thing go around, okay? Jesus makes this thing go around, and He does it through using each and every one of us, okay? I don't hold some special place. I don't have some magical talents. Anyone that's been around me for a while would certainly say, I know that Jacob guy, and there's not too much special about him. And I will tell you that is true. There's just a whole lot special about my God. Amen? So we've all got a place, we've all got an opportunity, so be ready for that. And we're also going to kick off circles. We're going to talk about that same night. And so I'll get you a date next week, and it's going to be exciting. It's going to be good stuff. And we all know that the truth of ministry is that Sunday, man, this is the appetizer round. This is where we get fueled up and fed. But it is in those groups that we're going to do day-to-day, life-to-life ministry, where we really invest in one another and pour into one another and confess for one another and lift each other up. And that's what's going to give us the opportunity and the ability to just explode. And I'm telling you, I am fired up about 2018. I look around, man, and in 3 short months, it's unbelievable what's happened. And Greg and I were talking about this last week. We have big, bold ambitions, and we're going to just build and build and grind and work and person by person. And I'm telling you, we see this great response. We live in this global economy. It's awesome. We do Facebook and all this stuff, but there's no better way to get someone in the doors of the church than a personal invitation.
That's right.
Nothing will ever replace a personal invite to say, hey, would you just come join us? That's all you have to say. I don't expect you, bust out the track like I did when I was a kid. I was never too good with those things. I get it, man. Just get them in the door. We're going to preach the gospel. All right? That's the promise I made to you. We're going to preach the gospel. I made that promise when I was talking to God when we kicked this thing off. I said, we're going to preach the gospel. If it doesn't preach, it doesn't preach. If it works, it works. That's what we're going to preach. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I'll be wrong preaching the gospel, though. That's what we're going to do. We kicked off this series, New Year, New You, last week, and we looked at this scripture, and we're going to read it again. But I really want to encourage everybody that there's a new you to be had. I don't care where you are in your walk with Jesus, there's a new me to be had. Whenever we fully comprehend and begin to invest and pour into our lives what it really is that God gave us. So 2 Corinthians 5:16, my apologies. So from now on, we regard no one from a worldly point of view. Though we once regarded Christ in this way, we do so no longer. Therefore, if anyone is in Christ, the new creation has come. The old has gone and the new is here. We looked at that scripture, and it's really the foundation for this series, but we looked at it and we set up the 3 realities that your history, your hurts, and your habits do not define you. That when you come into a new life with Christ, what you did in the past, I don't care how bad or nasty or incomprehensible it is, it doesn't matter. It doesn't count against you anymore. I don't care how bad someone hurts you, your hurts don't define you anymore. And in fact, we talked about how God uses our hurts not as a setback, but as a setup. Because He's going to pour hope into your hurt. And then that hope comes through us and is going to invest in someone else whenever they're experiencing the same hurt that we're experiencing. And then our habits, man. Habits will drag you down, right? Habits are the hardest thing to kick whenever you come into a new life with Jesus. Habits happen Monday morning after you've left this place, and Tuesday, and Wednesday, and Thursday, and Friday, and Saturday. But I'm telling you, your habits don't matter. They don't add up. And so we've got to remember that our history, our hurts, and our habits don't matter, because there's a new year and there's a new you. There's a new me. And today I want to take a little bit of a look at an old passage. It's in Judges chapter 6. I'm going to give you a minute to turn there. But has anyone ever heard the phrase, I would if I could, but I can't, so I won't? I would if I could, but I can't, so I won't. I'd fix my car if I could, but I can't, so I won't. I'd fix my marriage if I could, but I can't, so I won't. I'd fix my relationship with my boss if I could, but I can't, so I won't. I'd fix my finances if I could, but I can't, so I won't. I'm telling you, we have a culture full of, I would if I could, but I can't, so I won't. But what scares me the most is the church has become a place of, I would if I could, but I can't, so I won't. And there's no place for that mentality in here. I would reach the lost if I could, but I can't, so I won't. We'd give more to missions if we could, but we can't, so we won't. We would get a new building if we could, but we can't, so we won't. We would have that new, great, special thing if we could, but we can't, so we won't. And there's just no place for that mentality. I don't use the word hate up here intentionally, but I hate that mentality of I would if I could, but I can't, so I won't. Because we've got to replace the I would if I could, but I can't, so I'm going to let Him. Right? I would if I could, but I can't. But He can. I would if I could, but I can't. That's all right. I'm going to give it to my God, because He's bigger, and He's better, and He's stronger, and He's bolder, and He's smarter, and He's wiser, and He's more studied. We got to shake that mentality. Pick this up with me. Judges chapter 6, verse 7 is where we're going to pick it up. We're going to read Jordan through verse 16. It says, when the Israelites cried out to the Lord because of Midian. Let me stop here. Let me set this up and just give a little bit of context. It's been about 200 years since God's people have crossed the River Jordan into the Promised Land. Okay, but they're living in the Promised Land, but they're not living in God's promise. Because they live with this mentality of I would if I could, but I can't, so I won't. And so the Midianites have beaten down God's people. They're just wearing them slick. They're robbing them. They're stealing from them. They're whooping on them. Like going to school with your lunch money and coming out with no milk. You know? And so they're living with this mentality of, I would if I could, but I can't, so I won't. And I love how this passage picks up. When the Israelites cried out to the Lord because of Midian, He sent them a prophet who said, this is what the Lord, the God of Israel, says. I brought you up out of Egypt, out of the land of slavery. I rescued you from the hand of the Egyptians, and I delivered you from the hand of all your oppressors. I drove them out before you and gave you their land. I said to you, I am the Lord your God. Do not worship the gods of the Amorites in whose land you live, but you have not listened to me. The angel of the Lord came and sat down under the oak. Isn't it great how God's all cool like that? Right? We got my boy Gideon. We're about to get to him, and he's hanging out, and he's all beat down and whooped, and the angel of the Lord, boy, he just parks it under that tree. I picture a glass of lemonade. I don't know if they had lemonade back then, but I'm going to imagine that they did. Angel of the Lord came and sat down under the oak in Ophrah that belonged to Joash the Abiezrite, where his son Gideon was threshing wheat in a winepress to keep it from the Midianites. When the angel of the Lord appeared to Gideon, he said, the Lord is with you, mighty warrior. Pardon me, my Lord, Gideon replied. But if the Lord is with us, why has all this happened to us? Where are all His wonders that our ancestors told us about when they said, did not the Lord bring us up out of Egypt? But now the Lord has abandoned us and given us into the hand of Midian. The Lord turned to him and said, go in the strength you have and save Israel out of Midian's hand. am I not sending you? Pardon me, my Lord, Gideon replied, but how can I save Israel? My clan is the weakest in Manasseh, and I am the least in my family. The Lord answered, I will be with you, and you will strike down all the Midianites, leaving none alive. Let's pray. Heavenly Father, man, we thank you for your word. We ask that you would anoint the words that are spoken today, God. Let them be your words. Let them move us to a closer relationship with you, God. Move us closer to just being a soul-winning, kingdom-building church. It's in your name we pray. Amen. So we've got Gideon living with the ultimate, I would if I could, but I can't, so I won't mentality. He feels like he's beat down, and an angel comes to talk to him, okay? And he's still whining and complaining. He's so beat down, he's belly aching when the angel comes and he's saying, hey, but where's all the things that I was promised? You see, my ancestors told about all these great things that were going to happen in my life, and none of them are coming to pass. Why is that? And I love it because God kind of, puts him in line a little bit. Like, did I not? And he goes to the list. Did I not deliver you to the promised land? Did I not free you from slavery? Did I not deliver you from the hand of the Egyptians? Did I not? Did I not? Did I not? Gideon forgot all of that. He's not living in the right mindset, so a new Gideon has to come about. And I want to talk about 4 things illustrated in this passage that happens with Gideon that I believe help us find a new us, a new you in this new year. Number 1, reading it again. Judges 6 and 7, it says, when the Israelites cried out to the Lord, you've got to be willing to ask for help. Right? How many times do we face a problem in our life and we're so unwilling to ask for help, and we endure and we endure and we endure and we endure and we go through it, and then finally we stop and we reach this point where we have to ask for help, and we ask God for help, and we ask those around us for some help, and the next thing we know, the problem's solved. And it took like a day. I've been dealing with it for 6 months, unwilling to ask for help. I asked for help, and there it is. Now, I'm not saying that everything that's going to be fixed in your life is going to happen overnight, but what I'm saying is our unwillingness to ask for help is often what keeps us from overcoming the problem. You see, we say, I would if I could, but I can't, so I won't. How about I would if I could, but I can't, so I'm going to ask for some help. I would if I could, but I can't. I need some help, God. And I love this. Whenever we ask God for help, what happens is He moves. And our perspective changes. When our perspective changes, what we seek changes. You see, whenever you start asking God for some help, He's going to change your perspective. He's going to change your viewpoint. He's going to start erasing the I would if I could, but I can't, so I won't. And He's going to start revealing some things for you to seek that are going to give you some breakthrough that you've been looking for. I don't know that we fully understand exactly where Gideon is, so I want to talk about it for a minute, because when God moves, our faith is strengthened, and what He does is He elevates us. Watch this. It says that the angel of the Lord came and sat down under the oak in Ophrah that belonged to Joash the Abiezrite, where his son Gideon was threshing wheat in a winepress. Okay, so if you back up, there's no need for a wine press anymore. But if you back up, we got a wine press, which is a basement. Okay? It's a depressed place. It is underground. Gideon is literally depressed. He's beat down mentally, emotionally, and he is physically hiding from the Midianites to thresh wheat. Now listen, when he's threshing wheat, he should be doing it from an elevated place. He should be threshing wheat from an elevated place so that the wind can work with him as he's separating the wheat from the chaff. Okay? And the wind works and it blows that away. So he's threshing wheat in the exact opposite place of where he should be threshing the wheat. And he said, well, maybe that's all he had. Well, that's not true. Because in verse 37, we learn that Gideon, in fact, had a threshing floor. He had a place where he should be doing his work, where God intended for him to be doing his work, where it would be easier, where it would make more sense, but he's so depressed. He's so fearful, he's so afraid, he's so beat down that he's literally threshing wheat from a basement. The last place he should be doing that. But what does God do whenever they cry out for help? God moves and the perspective changes and what they seek changes. And God elevates Gideon. He pulls him up out of that wine press and puts him back where he should be, doing it the way he should. You see, if you'll seek God, He's going to elevate you out of the depression, out of the wrong place, and He's going to put you where you should be. Number 2, you got to see the new you as the you that God sees. So number 1, we've got to be willing to ask for help. Number 2, we've got to see the new us, the new me, the new you as the you that God sees. I love this. Gideon says, "Pardon me, my Lord, but how can I save Israel? My clan is the weakest in Manasseh, and I'm the least in my family." Gideon's saying, God, I'm not even close to qualified for what it is you're telling me to do. I'm the weakest in my family. My clan, those around me, are the weakest. I'm going to pause here for a minute. What we project onto others has a great impact of what they will accomplish around us. Gideon's saying, my clan is so terrible, God. I'm not going to war with them boys. They can't whoop anybody. We're threshing wheat in the basement, God. Just give us some food. Give us something good. That's what we want. We're here. But that's not how God sees Gideon. You see, in verse 12, just before Gideon's whining and crying about this, he refers to Gideon as a mighty warrior. So we've got the guy who says, I have the weakest clan and I'm the weakest in my family. I'm so unfit, unqualified. You couldn't have talked to a worse person. I'm hiding in the basement, God, just to get a little bread. And God calls him and says, you are a mighty warrior. You see, God sees a you that you don't see yet. He sees a more fortified you, a more capable you, a stronger you, a wiser you. A you that can do things that you don't even know you can do. Why? Because the new you is a you filled with Jesus. And there's nothing that He can't do. He already told Gideon all of the things. He said, did I not deliver you? Did I not give you exactly what I said? Did I not make these promises and fulfill them? I would if I could, but I can't, so I won't. Is going to be your mentality until you see the you that God sees. Until you fully begin to understand that when you have new life in Him, everything is new about you. Your history, your hurts, and your habits are gone. You've got a brand new opportunity, a brand new setting, a brand new makeup. You get to be elevated from the floor of the wine press back up to the threshing floor where you belong, where you can do your work the way that you're supposed to do it. You see, there's a new you in this new year. Number 3, to find the new you have to accept the work. That can be a tough one. Accept the work. You see, God's calling Gideon to go and do something, right? He's calling Gideon to go and to take back what's rightfully his from the Midianites. He's calling Gideon up out of the basement, up out of the depression, up out of the fear, up out of the anxiety. But Gideon's got to accept the work. If Gideon stops at this point and says, you know what? I appreciate the pep talk, God, but I'm good in the basement. Then it's just not going to work for him, right? Y'all know I have kids. Only stories I have are kids' stories because all I do is raise kids. And you know when you're raising a kid and you get in this habit, especially with the first one, right? Third one, Ben, that poor guy. Whew. He's lucky if he gets taken out of the car and put in the house. Can I get an amen? Anybody got 3 kids? You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Where's Ben? I don't know. Think he's alive? I don't know. Bet he is. I trapped him in his car seat. I don't think he can get out. But man, that first one gets there. And you're like, it's like panic mode, right? You're constantly, you're like, whoa, they coughed. Do you think that West Nile? You reach the craziest conclusions, right? I mean, you just know something's wrong with them all the time. It's like, you think he can walk up the steps? No, we better carry him. How's he going to learn to walk up the steps? You know? I mean, my dad, fortunately, is like the voice of reason. He is a firm believer in natural consequences. And I would say that's like the greatest parenting tip ever. Natural consequences do far more than you telling your kid what to do, I promise. They fall down the steps, they learn, hey, you might want to do that a little differently. But what happens is, with that first kid, man, it's always like, no. Don't do that, don't do that, don't do that, don't do that. You're not big enough, you're not big enough, you're not ready, you're not ready, you're not ready, you're not big enough, don't do that. Don't walk up the steps, don't touch the stove, don't even look at the oven, scared you might climb in it. All these things, and you're constantly in fear. And what happens is, your kids use it against you. No one told me this, so I'm going to share it with anybody that has young kids. When they get about 4, you then say, hey, help me carry this bag in. Oh, I can't do that. Hey, I need you to go upstairs and pick up. Oh, I can't walk up the steps. All of the things that you caution them about in life, they come back and they're like, I can't do that because X, Y, Z. Remember, Dad, you told me. And Collier's like, default now is 14. You know, when I'm 14, I'll be able to do that when I'm 14, like it's tomorrow. You know? But that, I'm telling you guys, that's the mentality, right? You got to accept the work. What happens is we get to this point in life, God has now called Gideon to something, and Gideon's living back in this 4-year-old mindset of saying, no, whenever I'm big enough, whenever I'm strong enough, God send me to CrossFit first, I'll get ready. Everybody that walked in this church walked up those stairs so sore because it's the new year and they've been working out for the first time in 7 years. You know? Everybody's just creaking in this place. Y'all know what I'm talking about? I tell you, there's a new you. You got to see the you that God sees. You got to be willing to ask for help. You got to accept the work. I think this last one is probably my absolute favorite, because I believe it is the one that stops almost all of us. The last thing that Gideon has to do is he has to go. I'm going to ask the praise team to come on back up. He can see himself as God sees him all he wants. He can accept all of the work he wants to accept, but absent his movement, absent his picking his feet up and climbing up out of the basement and accepting God's elevation, absent strapping up the boots and saying, hey, I'm going to do it. None of it matters. You see, the new you's got to be a you that's willing to go. It's got to be a you that's willing to say, you know what? I asked for some help, and God's on my side. It's got to be a you that says, you know what? I see a me that's just totally different than how the world sees me, because God dwells within me and He is capable of anything and everything. And I see the work that's ahead, but that's okay. I'm not worried about putting a little work in. I'm going to go. And I love this illustration of how Gideon goes, and we talk about fear a lot here because, man, fear's a crippler. But if you continue reading in this passage, God calls him to go out and to tear down his father's altar to a false god. And Gideon goes and he does it. But he does it at night because he's scared. It's okay to be a little bit afraid whenever you're going to go. Just go. If you think that doing everything in my life, because I'm Mr. Pastor guy, means that I do it all and I don't have some fear or some anxiety or some worries about it, you're crazy. You just got to understand that there's a new you in your relationship with Him that enables you to go into places that you've never been able to go before. It enables you to do things that you've never been able to do before. Because I'm telling you, the inside of you is Jesus. I don't know if we get that. Man, that's a tough concept, right? Every power that He has, which is all the power the world has ever known, is inside of you. Whenever you feel absolutely defeated, you got to understand the one that gave it all lives inside of you. Whenever you feel so depressed that you never want to climb out of the basement again, He lives in you. We're going to shout that from the mountaintops because it's the only thing that makes our life different. This building's just a building. This service time is just a meeting until He shows up. Your history, your hurts, and your habits don't define you. The way you see yourself, the way the world may say that it sees you, doesn't define you. Ask for some help, accept the work, and be willing to go. And I'm telling you, unbelievable things. I love this. Colossians 2:9 and 10 states that for in Him the whole fullness of the deity dwells bodily, and you have been filled in Him who is the head of all rule and authority. See, I would if I could, but I can't, so I won't. It's just a cop-out whenever you're living with the one who is head of all rule and authority within inside you. It's just an excuse. One that I've made. Okay? I'm for you. I'm not against you. One that I've made many times. I would if I could, but I can't, so I won't. We got to stop saying, I would if I could, but I can't, so I won't, because the fullness of His rule and authority lives inside of us. Let's bow our heads and close our eyes. If there's anyone in this room that would just say, Pastor, I don't have that relationship with Jesus. I don't know Him personally. I don't know what my future holds because I don't yet know the one. You just slip up your hand. I gotta embarrass you. Thank you. Let's all say this prayer together. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for sending your Son to die for our sins. We ask that you cleanse us, that you make us new. We accept you as our Savior. It's in your name we pray. Every head bowed and every eye closed still. If there's just anyone in this room that would say, I need a new me. I don't see myself the way God sees me. I'm not willing to ask for help. I haven't yet accepted the work, and I'm certainly not willing to go. Just slip up your hand. We just want to pray with you. Thank you. Heavenly Father, man, we can't say thank you enough because you've paid it all. You've made us brand new. You make us whole. You complete us. Our insufficiencies become fully sufficient. Our weakness becomes strength. Our ignorance becomes wisdom, God, in you. We thank you for who you are, God, and I ask that as we go out into this next week, that you would just let each and every person in this room, myself included, begin to better understand that there's a new us because we are made new in you. That you see something in us that we can never see for ourselves, that you're calling us to something bigger and greater and bolder than we could ever even imagine if we'll just accept the work, ask for the help, and be willing to go. God, we thank you for who you are, and we lift you up. If everybody would just stand, we're going to begin to worship Him again. These altars are always open, guys, if you don't want to be praying with you. But let's pray. Let's just press in, guys. I wrapped it up intentionally a little short to give us just an opportunity to just truly worship Him.
Oh, Lord, I must
in store for 2018. Have a great week, and remember, together we win.